You're listening to the Greeks Gridiron, live with Ethan Haristodoulou.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the Greeks Gridiron. I am Ethan Haristodoulou. It is August 26, 2021. We are getting set to start the final week of the NFL preseason. Fair amount of things for us to talk about, some notable injuries that have gone on this week and some big names that are going to be getting some play time this week as well. So a whole bunch of stuff to get into, and so we will. As a reminder, if you have not already, make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe. If you're listening to the show on another platform that isn't YouTube, we are a visual podcast, so you can check us out there and see the other half of the podcast you're missing out on. But now, with the Week 3 preview, lots of stuff to get into. The first thing that I'm going to talk about, and I've been hearing a whirlwind of conversation about it because I am from the New England area, we are going to start off with the conversation of quarterback Mac Jones, the rookie over in New England. Due to a big misunderstanding with the way protocols have been working for testing, Cam Newton ended up having to miss pretty much the entire week of practice with the like joint practices and things like that with the New York Giants for this week's game that they're going to be having, the final of the preseason. He is coming back today, though. I believe he should be practicing right about now. I'm recording this a little bit before noon, so this is right around the time when all that stuff is going on. So unfortunate for him, but the big conversation was, well, is this a big opportunity for somebody like Mac Jones to be able to leapfrog Cam Newton in the quarterback one battle and maybe win out the starting job earlier than people have expected? He has been very impressive so far this preseason, a lot of praise going his way, and, you know, with any rookie doing anything in the preseason, the conversation is always, oh, well, he's playing backups, let's see him do it against starters, blah, blah, blah. You can't just look at raw numbers for stuff like that. It's what you're really looking at is just how do they handle situations, how are they handling themselves, how are they executing things, running the huddle, you know, checking plays when you're a quarterback, things like that. How do they handle that kind of stuff? Those are the things that you're really looking at here, and you're not necessarily just looking at the statistics and, you know, what were they doing, but, you know, was he making good decisions? Was he making poor decisions? That kind of stuff. And Mac Jones has been awesome. A big stat that goes along with that I am using that kind of goes against what I just said, but I think is at least noticeable, the 68% completion percentage he's had, pretty strong for somebody that's only a rookie. On top of that, I mean, he's had really strong practices, and yesterday, from what everyone was saying and from what I was able to look at myself, Mac Jones had probably his best day of practice yet as a New England Patriot, which is huge for him. He's slated to get about 2 quarters of play time this week, which gives him an even bigger opportunity to maybe, you know, unseat Cam Newton from that number 1 spot and take over the starting role as soon as week 1, which is a lot earlier than some people expected. Now, the big issue and like kind of concern going around with Mac Jones is his body going to be able to hold up this first year? Obviously, he's still, you know, fresh out of college, a younger guy, doesn't quite have like the grown man NFL build just yet. It'll probably take him a year or so to really, you know, fill himself out and get to like the NFL level standard of frame that you'd want to have. But he's been wearing a knee brace and different types of knee braces at that on and off throughout the last like couple of weeks now, at least as far as I know. So there's a little bit of concern there with the knee going on and what's happening there, but it sounds like everyone's very impressed with what he's been doing as far as just, you know, running the huddle, running the offense, you know, he's nose deep in the playbook. So a lot of good things coming around, and, you know, this is really unfortunate for Cam Newton. You know, he's been like semi-vocal about it on Instagram without like directly saying anything involved. His posts have obviously alluded to what's going on, but has not actually like straightforward addressed any of the issues. But it's really unfortunate for Cam, but it sounds like a lot of people are ready to just see Mac Jones get going. I, for one, I like Cam Newton, but I feel like sometimes you got to kind of like dangle the toes of a player above the fire and, you know, just kind of send them to the wolves and see how they do. It'll be tough for Mac Jones to start week 1. Probably, of course, he's going to be playing full-blown NFL defenses at that point, but he's showing really good signs, and he seems like the kind of guy that maybe needs to be held above the fire a little bit to really see what he can do and get the most out of him. So I'm all for him starting week 1. Obviously, it's ultimately up to whatever the personnel decides, Bill Belichick and the company around him, Josh McDaniels. But, you know, if Mac Jones is impressing and he has a strong preseason game this weekend, I mean, it's a tough argument to make based off of how Cam Newton played last year. And while he has done better this year, the rookie fever is a real thing, especially at the quarterback position. You want to get those young guys out there, and you want to get, your investments worth out of them, being a first-round pick especially. So we'll have to see where it goes, but it sounds like Cam Newton might not be the starter, and Mac Jones could potentially leapfrog him and take the spot. We'll just kind of have to see how things play out in the next week or so, but I am excited to find out how it goes. Now, the next piece of conversation that I have for this show, this one still focuses on quarterback, but more so just an entire offense as a whole. We're going to kind of discuss the Baltimore Ravens here a little bit because there is kind of some concern going on there. The first thing that I'll address is, are we going to get to see Lamar Jackson play anything at all in the preseason? I'm really hoping, because typically if this was the standard preseason prior to this year where you'd have 4 games, this is like dress rehearsal week. Now it's not, because they're all going to have a week and then the actual season starts. So they get a bye as opposed to having a 4th game. I'm really hoping we get to see something from Lamar Jackson. I think it's good for anyone, no matter who it is, and I understand guys like Aaron Rodgers and everyone maybe aren't actually playing in the preseason games at all. I'm not going to sit here and say that, the coaches are making the wrong choice. I just think it's always good to get a few live action snaps in and just get a feel for the game. Even if, you're somebody who's been doing it for 16 years or so, whatever it may be, I still think it's always good. You've been gone for however many months, knock some of the rust off you and just get yourself ready to go. That's kind of where I look at that. So I'm hoping to see Lamar Jackson play. That's kind of a question mark I have for the game. On top of that, the concern really is the wide receiver room right now, because it is just depleted. There's so many injuries. I have the list right here. We have Rashad Bateman, who's been out with a groin issue, won't be back until sometime in September. Marquise Brown has been dealing with a hamstring thing. Sammy Watkins has some undisclosed injury. Miles Boykin also has a hamstring thing going on. James, I believe it's Proche, or it might be Proche. I don't know exactly the pronunciation for that one. He's dealing with a back thing. And then Deion Kane is also working with an undisclosed injury, and they're all sidelined, not really participating in anything. So the issue with Baltimore's offense, in my opinion, has been the wide receiver room. Marquise Brown has really been the only name of note for that team, and even his production has not been to what I think the Ravens were really hoping to get out of him when they brought him into the organization. Now, Jackson has missed 10 days of camp. He's finally getting to the point where, he's back and he's actually able to participate with the team. And, this is the final preseason game. You got to get him in there, in my opinion, and get him playing a little bit, make sure he's ready to go. From what Baltimore has been saying, they were working on different types of things out of different styles, like a pass sets and different formations. They wanted to get him under center more. So you got to get him in there and implement some of that in actual game action, right? Like, that's just kind of how I look at that. If you went and, expanded the playbook, you're sticking him in new formations, even if it's not the starting, trio or 2 guys at wide receiver that they're going to have out of the gate, you at least want to get Lamar Jackson in there and have him throwing the football out of those new formations and getting comfortable in actual live game scenarios. But, outside of that, we got to really look at this wide receiver room and just hope that they can get healthy. There is about 2 weeks or so, I believe, from the start of the season. I think the first game is September 9th, if I'm not mistaken. So we got roughly 2 weeks, actually might be 14 on the dot, something like that. So we're getting pretty close to the start of the season. Hopefully these guys can get healthy and get some time in to play with Jackson, because you have a remade wide receiver room. You're sticking your quarterback in new formations to get him to be more of that pure thrower that people scrutinize him for, which I am not a part of that group. I think Lamar Jackson's an incredible athlete. I think he's a solid passer. Is there room for improvement? Sure, but I see the way some people knock him on the internet does not make sense to me. The guy was an MVP just a couple of years ago, and even last year, he still had a really strong season. It obviously wasn't the MVP year, but you're not going to have an MVP type year every single season. Relax, But I guess we just really have to see how things go. I really hope they start him. And, there's been this question passing around the internet that everyone's talking about. And even the networks are talking about it too, is this the year that the NFL finally figures out Lamar Jackson? If people are asking that question, you need to be able to make sure that Lamar Jackson is prepared to prove them wrong and tell them no, that this is not the year they're going to figure me out, that I am a quarterback and as good as advertised. So really hope we get to see him this weekend. That's a game I'll keep my eye on, because I hope to see him get underneath the center and see how he plays out in those new formations, those new passing sets, and some of the new mechanics that they've been working on with him all offseason. Now, a lot of quarterback discussion for the day. Next subject is also a quarterback conversation here. We are discussing Jameis Winston of the New Orleans Saints now. I guess the real big question to lead off for this topic here is, has Winston done enough to win the job? In my opinion, yes. And from what it seems like, Winston is going to be the number one guy. And I've been saying this for a while. I really felt like this was always going to be Jameis Winston's job to lose. Breeze said it to him last year. This is your team now. The quote that I have over here to the left-hand side of me. So, I mean, that's not something that's new to anyone. But, I mean, if you watch the way he was playing just this past week, 9 of 10, 123 yards, and 2 absolute beautiful throws to Marquez Callaway. I mean, you want to talk about some awesome darts of a throw. And then on top of that, like, they're both touchdowns. They were long balls, great placement. Say what you will about it being preseason. You're not starting against starters. We're not looking at that. We're looking at where the ball was put and did he make the throw and how difficult was the actual throw itself. Both of those were difficult throws put in the best spot where only his receiver was going to get it. It does not matter who they were playing against. We're not looking at that. We're looking at how did he handle the actual situation he was in, and he did both of those throws in an excellent manner. This is one of those things where I feel like the offense is going to be more versatile having Winston at QB1 and then Taysom Hill playing the gadget role that he's been doing. This kind of like mitigates any real massive changes they would need to make for the offensive system. They can basically run what they were doing with Drew Brees before, except Jameis Winston has a bigger arm and he's not, at the tail end of his career. He might not be as accurate, obviously, Drew Brees being the most accurate quarterback in NFL history, but aside from that, it does give them an opportunity to basically play the same style of offense they've been doing the last few years with Brees under center, but just he has a bigger arm than Brees does. Hopefully he can mitigate his turnovers. He's been looking better and better, and he sounded really excited from the statement I was reading from him that, he finally got this opportunity to be QB1 again, so it sounds exciting for him. He sounds excited, and I think, with a solid defense, this team could go. They could be a playoff contender. Things were looking kind of bad going through the offseason. They lost so many players. There were like $100 million over the cap room just a few months ago. So craziness all around when it came to like how New Orleans looked at the start of the offseason. But things are starting to shape up, looking good for them. If Winston can play effectively, I think the pairing with him and Sean Payton as his head coach and, a solid defense, which the Saints defense, they lost some pieces, so we'll see how they end up playing out. But, I mean, with solid defensive play behind him, this is a team that could realistically fight for that number 7 seed or maybe even the 6th seed there. But we'll have to see how things go out. I have a feeling, though, it's going to be Jameis Winston at QB1. They want to keep the offense as, status quo as it's been for the last few years. I don't think they want to have to change as much if they were to just drop the whole Taysom Hill aspect and strictly start him as QB1. So we'll have to see how that shakes out there. Now, going from, is this going to be QB1 to this is the QB1, shout out to Teddy Bridgewater for winning out the battle over in Denver. This is something we've kind of followed all through the offseason and going through the preseason. I feel like I've talked about this quarterback competition a lot, especially because the Broncos are a team that have an excellent defense and what looks to get even better this year with a draft pick like Pat Surtain. And I mean, there's so much to be excited for over there in Denver on the defensive side of the football. They're getting Von Miller back, Nick Chubb, all that good stuff. But Vic Fangio came out. He said, last week, I'm probably going to have a decision earlier in the week, and he did. Teddy Bridgewater was named the QB1. He will start for the Broncos week 1. Locke, from what I've read, lost the battle basically because commanding the huddle was a weakness. His pocket awareness wasn't great, and that's kind of something that we've seen where I don't want to say it's not good. It's like inconsistent because some games he would light it up. The last couple of years he's been starting, he would light it up some games, and other games he would look like he's almost lost, and it's not the same player. It's like you either get really good Drew Lock or really bad Drew Lock. It was really interesting how it went all out. In some of his pre-snap reads, it seemed like he would get lost the line of scrimmage from what everyone's saying. I've watched a few things here and there from the Denver Broncos, and I'm going to be honest, I did not quite see that myself just because I'm watching so many different things, and I'm never just focusing on one player at once. But that's the stuff that I was reading off of that people were saying. I guess the real question now is he going to get any? Is Bridgewater going to get any play time this week, or is he just going to sit and have Drew Lock take the bulk of the snaps, and then they'll just have whoever backup bodies are sitting in preseason camps until we get into the actual season playing? Who knows? We'll have to see. I'm excited for Teddy Bridgewater. I'm also going to keep my eye on what Drew Lock is doing this weekend because my real question now is, will Drew Lock take this kind of like chip on his shoulder after losing what was supposed to be his job before Teddy Bridgewater got brought into town? And is he going to, bust his butt and see if he can make his way into the QB1 conversation again later down through the season? We'll have to follow his play. He has an opportunity this weekend. I think he's supposed to play about 2 quarters or something like that. So good opportunity for Locke to maybe put some doubt in their mind at the QB1 spot, because even Vic Fangio himself said he felt like he has two very capable quarterbacks, and I feel like this was more like he had to split hairs to decide as opposed to being like Bridgewater ran away with the job, because Locke had some really flashy plays. I'll go ahead and say that right now. This is not a competition that I think Bridgewater ran away with. This was like, it came down to just a few real more like fundamental things than anything else. Now, we'll move away from the quarterback conversation here. This is something that has kind of developed over the last couple of weeks, and something I think is really something to keep an eye on, especially you New York fans. The Jets, man, talk about having your defensive line depleted the last couple of weeks. Vinny Curry, gone due to a blood disorder or the effects of a blood disorder that he has. He's gone for the whole season. Carl Lawson last week ruptured his Achilles. He is also gone as well. So now your big ticket free agent and a guy who's been a very solid defensive end for the bulk of his career is gone as well. I mean, the Jets have a lot of figuring out to do in just a couple of weeks as to who's going to be starting on the edges for the D-line. That'll be something we obviously have to keep an eye on. The New York Jets game will be one where you're probably going to get to see a rotation of guys playing on the D-line because of these injuries here. Hopefully they figure something out and they're able to form some sort of pass rush. It really sucks that they lost Carl Lawson, because that was something that was, I think, really exciting for Robert Salah to get a big, solid defensive end who's had a pretty impressive career so far when he was over in Cincinnati, and now, losing that big ticket free agent to the entire season and a ruptured Achilles, like, that sucks. So hopefully things work out for them. When you're watching, if you're a New York fan, I'd say, keep your eyes on guys like Ronald Blair, John Franklin Myers, Bryce Huff. Those are going to be a lot of the guys. And there's a few other ones as well. I know that they just, they brought in a guy, his last name's like, I don't know the pronunciation, but it's like, Adioa, I think it's like Adeo or something, or I don't know. Adeoya, I believe, is how it's spelled out. I don't know the exact pronunciation of that. I probably just butchered the hell out of it. I have a crazy last name, so I get it. But hopefully one of these guys is able to step up. I expect to see that competition ramp up a little bit this week, and some guys really try to get after the ball, carve out a spot for them on the defense. But really unfortunate stuff over in New York. So keep an eye on the D-line over in New York and see if anyone's producing any sort of type of pass rush, or even just really good at the run blocking game, or run stuffing game, Maybe somebody will splash or, have a big flashy play here and there that might stand out a little bit for New York and give some sort of glimmer of hope, because, that is very unfortunate what's going on with the edges over there in New York. Now, the last couple of pieces to discuss here before I send you all off for the rest of your Thursday. We're going to discuss quick, just notable injuries that came out from the week. First one is Travis Etienne. Linz-Frack injury. He is out for the season. He got placed on IR the other day, and because he was not technically on the roster before, I believe it's like 4 p.m. next Tuesday or something like that, he is technically, he has to sit out for the entire year. I don't know the rule on that. I think it's kind of ridiculous how that rule works. I don't really see how that really benefits anyone involved, but he's going to be out for the year. Rookie running back for the Jaguars, of course. He's also the running back for Trevor Lawrence at Clemson. So that kind of shot Urban Meyer and the Jaguars right in the foot there with how they wanted to do things on offense. They do have a very good and serviceable running back in James Robinson, though. So I don't think that they're sweating it too much. It's more probably disappointment than anything else. I, for one, was never really sure of the pick and why they went after a running back, considering they had a 1,000-yard rusher just the season prior who was, a wicked young guy. There's no reason to think he's going to be leaving the team anytime soon. So it didn't make sense to me. But unfortunate. The other note I have here is obviously Vinny Curry. He's going to be out for the season as well with that blood disorder. And then this was one that broke out literally today. He had gotten hurt yesterday, or I don't know, yesterday or the day before, one of the last couple of days. But the news broke today that Green Bay wide receiver Devin Funchess, who I've been raving about the last couple of weeks, I feel, and pointing out, this guy could be an X factor for Green Bay, has been placed on the IR list, and he is going to be out for the season as well. Apparently both sides can kind of agree on like a severance package or something like that, where they can work out the like nooks and crannies of his deal, and I guess he could potentially sign with another team while he tries to get better from the injury. So that's something we'll have to keep an eye on and see if, because I could not find like what exactly the hamstring injury was. It just like it was all defined as just a hamstring injury. So how serious is it? Like, did he tear his hamstring completely? Like what exactly happened? I don't know. But this was a guy that, you know, he had like 70 yards from Jordan Love a couple of weeks ago, and I was raving about him. I'm like, you know, they didn't go after a wide receiver early in the draft. They did get Amari Rodgers in like the 3rd round or 4th round, but you know, watch Devin Funchess, big-bodied guy. You know, he's like a wide receiver that looks like a tight end type dude, but sucks to suck, man. You know, out with an injury, and now the Green Bay Packers are back sitting there just looking at their wide receiver room, and I'm sure Aaron Rodgers is not thrilled to see that. That has to be somebody that he might have had his eye on. He was hoping to have working with him this year, but that sucks for Green Bay. Hopefully Amari Rodgers can stand out, and maybe, you know, the addition of Randall Cobb from the last, was like a couple of weeks ago when they brought him in and Aaron Rodgers came back, or 3 weeks ago rather, however long it's been now at this point. Hopefully that wide receiver room is good to go. But a tough blow for Devin Funchess. I was really excited for him. He's missed the last like couple of seasons with an injury already, and this is like his 3rd in a row. So tough spot for him. Wish him the best. Hopefully you can sort that whole thing out. But those are the big injuries that kind of came out during this week that I wanted to make note of for you guys in case you missed them. And then for the last piece of the show, the final segment, we ended off the preview segment last week as well with the same thing. We'll do it again here. I have to my left side now my games to watch. Now, first one on the list here, we have New England at the New York Giants. More so because of what's going on in New England than anything else. We discussed it at length earlier in the show. Mac Jones and his opportunity to win the QB1 job. He's supposed to be getting like 2 quarters of play. And I think this is a really good game to watch if you're excited about these rookie quarterbacks coming out like I am. You know, hopefully he can snag up the job for his sake. And, you know, if Cam Newton loses it because of this stupid protocols thing that he got, you know, he fell into, you know, we'll have to see how that whole thing sorts itself out. But Mac Jones could be unseating Cam for the QB1 job, so definitely check that game out. He's had a couple of great showings already in the preseason, so hopefully he can, you know, triple down on that one and make it a 3rd strong showing in the preseason and really, you know, give a reason for why the Patriots should consider starting him week 1. The second one that I have on the list, I have Green Bay at Buffalo, and for 2 different reasons listed on here. The first one is to keep an eye on the young Bills pass rush. This is one that, you know, the Bills pass rush, in my opinion, was probably what really held them back last year. The running game was another issue as well when we got late into the season and into the playoffs, but they were not really able to get after the quarterback too much towards the end of the year. They were really struggling, and when you're playing teams that have Patrick Mahomes at quarterback and somebody like, you know, Justin Herbert's looking like he's going to be really good, and if some of these other really good AFC quarterbacks get rolling, you need to be able to put pressure on them. So that's something that we'll have to keep an eye on. Apparently, Gregory Rousseau, I believe is how you pronounce his name, their 1st-round draft pick, has been really impressing and showing a lot of power that he did not show in college, and he's been surprising a lot of pundits. So keep an eye on the Bills' pass rush and him specifically. And then on the other side of the football, I have noted because of the Funchess injury, are there any wide receivers that might stand out or shine in this last game, you know, trying to make that last point or 2 for why they need to stay on the roster. But again, the Devin Funchess thing sucks. Hopefully with Randall Cobb being there, it kind of mitigates that loss. But, you know, Randall Cobb is not a 6'4" guy like Devin Funchess. So we'll have to see how things shake out over there. But a couple different reasons why you should be checking out that game. Third on the list, we have Las Vegas at San Francisco. This is another quarterback battle type thing where we have Lancer Garoppolo. Kyle Shanahan has been mum on who the starting quarterback is going to be. He will not state why, or not why, but he will not state who it's going to be. He was saying the only reason he feels it's worth in making an announcement now is because it's just going to stop the people from asking the question. There's no other real benefit to saying who. But you have Lancer Garoppolo. Part of me feels like he's going to shock and say Lance because he's being so quiet about it, but Jimmy Garoppolo also himself said he has a pretty good idea and he feels happy with the way he's controlled the offense. I have a feeling, though, it's going to be Garoppolo. I want it to be Lance, but I feel like it's going to be Garoppolo. I'm really excited for Trey Lance. He has such an awesome arm, and, you know, he's had some really good throws. Has he had his struggles? Yes, but he's in such a good system that I think he'll be able to really succeed there. And for me and for Jimmy Garoppolo, it just does not feel like San Francisco wants him there. So, you know, start the other guy and trade Garoppolo. This is like the same issue that I have with the Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers thing in Green Bay is they were so intent on keeping Aaron Rodgers after him having the MVP season, but you went and drafted a quarterback the year prior in the first round and that you traded up for. Like, put your money where your mouth is. The same thing kind of applies here. San Francisco gave up all this capital to be able to move up to number 3 to get Trey Lance, and then from there, you're like, no, but we're going to start Jimmy G. I mean, I understand wanting to give the guys time, but if it's that close that you're not willing to make a statement yet, then just, start the guy that you clearly want to have start, unless you don't think he's ready and he really needs to sit for a few more weeks. That would be the only explanation. And same thing for, I guess, Green Bay's sake is, they must not feel that Jordan Love is ready. I don't know. Last one that I have on the list, and this one is because of news that I saw earlier today as well. Pretty exciting stuff. Joe Burrow is finally set to play. It's been a long time since Week 11 last year that we've seen Joe Burrow under center. He's finally going to get some opportunity, I guess a very limited number of snaps, but he is going to play against Miami, so check out the Miami and Bengals game. Let's see last year's number 1 pick hopefully show up and show out in his first game action since Week 11 of last year with that gruesome knee injury that he had. Hopefully the line can hold up, keep him protected. From what I've been seeing, I believe he's still wearing a knee brace around his leg, so I don't know if that's just like precautionary stuff, but hopefully nothing crazy happens. I hope he's really 100% ready to go and ready to play. From what it sounds like, he's been looking good. Him and Jamar Chase have had a little bit of issues hooking up and connecting. He had 3 drops last week, but I mean just in practice specifically. But hopefully we can figure something out over there, or they can figure out something over there rather. But that is my 4th and final game to watch for this week, and that will wrap up today's episode of the show. If you have not already, again, like, comment, share, sub, all the good stuff. Maybe I missed some discussion points, or maybe I'm wrong on a point or two. Please let me know down in the comment section. But I appreciate you all for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday afternoon and week 3 of the preseason. I will catch you guys again next time with another video. Have a good rest of your day, everybody.